Hey kids, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here, just reminding you to not punch tigers. It may seem cool, but it's dangerous for both you and the tiger. So just remember, from Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard, punching tigers in school is not cool. Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. So it's finally here, the third reboot of Spider-Man, fourth if you count the 1970s version. So how's it work compared to the other reboots? What do I like? What do I dislike? How does it fit into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, let's talk about it. Before we get into the review proper, since this is a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, let's talk about what we've seen in this universe so far and how it stands on my Marvel hierarchy. So far, best thing from Marvel in 2017, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, bar none. So awesome, so many feels, thumbs up all the way. That is a great movie. Under that, we have Iron Fist. I mean, I don't hate it as much as most people, but I do admit it does have its problems, and it can get a little boring. And at the bottom, of course, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4. I fucking hated that season. It was terrible, and they need to stop. Stop with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sorry. So where does Spider-Man Homecoming sit on this list? Well, let's talk about it. So Spider-Man is brought to us from director John Watts, who did a whole bunch of episodes of the Onion News Network show. Odd. So the general plot of Spider-Man Homecoming is a few months after Civil War, Spider-Man is back in school with the suit from Tony Stark and is learning to become your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but is feeling, like he could do more as a hero. And, ever since he, went against Cap, he, thinks he should be a bigger hero. But Tony wants him to work on the small things and help the little guy. And it's a battle of what he can do, what he can't do, and how does his life revolve around being Spider-Man. So that's your general plot. So let's talk about the characters. Of course, you got your titular Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland. I'm Tom Holland. That's the best Tom Holland voice. Anyways, Tom Holland. So this iteration of Spider-Man is a lot closer to the cartoon Ultimate Spider-Man.
Hey, can we talk about this? Like two rational insects?
If you're watching that, it's currently, on whatever channel. It's a lot jokier, a lot, funnier, a lot more gadgets. I'd say it's very akin to what's going on in Ultimate Spider-Man, the cartoon. So if you like that, you'll like this iteration of Spider-Man. He really wants to be better, but is awkward and weird as a teenager is, and really fills it out well. I like this iteration of Spider-Man. And it seems that each iteration is closer and more comic accurate, and so this one is the best yet. Andrew Garfield was really good. It had a lot more closer connection to the comics, but was still missing a lot. And Tobey Maguire, organic web shooters. Just going to throw that out there. But yeah, this Tom Holland's Spider-Man is fantastic, and continues on from what we saw in Civil War, and just fills it out more. And I absolutely love him as Spider-Man. So thumbs up to Tom Holland. And we got our main villain, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, and I have to say, Mr. Mom made me shit my pants. He is fucking scary. He is intimidating. He is probably one of the best Marvel villains, right up there with Wilson Fisk and Loki. Just intense, and he's fantastic. I'm going to get into more later, but yeah, Michael Keaton just knocks it out of the park, is so great as the Vulture. Obviously, this is a different take on the Vulture than what's in the comics, where the Vulture is someone who has a suit that can steal youth from young people and keep him young. Obviously, they had to do a play on that and change that around a lot, but what they did was fantastic, so I'm all on board. If you replace something from the comic, but you replace it with something as good or better, that's okay. I'm on board. So this version of the Vulture, I'm fully aboard, and it was great. Michael Keaton is fantastic.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
So we got Marissa Tomei playing Aunt May. So you once again have an episode of Matt wrestles with his sexual attraction to Aunt May. Because yes, we now live in a universe where Aunt May is fuckable, and that still feels weird. But she is still really good. She could be in it more, but what she does is fantastic. She really adds to the plot, and she's just good. She's really great. They also play on the fact that she is ridiculously attractive for a 50-year-old woman, and a lot of side gags with that, and it's played up, and I like that a lot as well. But yeah, Marissa, so good. Give me a call. And the last character I want to talk about is Laura Harrier plays Liz. Laura was last kind of known for being on One Life to Live. Alright. But, so I like the fact that they didn't go with Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy this time and going on with Liz, who is another lesser-known Spider-Man love interest. Spider-Man has a lot of love interests. But I like that, so it's not really a direct comparison to what's before, it's something new. And she does a fantastic job. She's, a smart student, works well with Tom Holland. They have a great back and forth, and is believable as a high schooler. Is she better than Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy? I mean, Emma Stone didn't look like she belonged in high school at that point, but she also had a whole other movie that she was fantastic in. Even if you don't like Amazing Spider-Man 2, Emma Stone is really good in it. So it's hard to say who's the better love interest. But what we got in Spider-Man Homecoming is fantastic as a love interest. Very believable, and I like her a lot. So, what did Spider-Man Homecoming do well? Well, the first thing I'd like to bring up is something I actually thought would have hurt the movie, but is a good thing, and that is the high school setting. I am so tired of high school Spider-Man. I'm ready to see him, be a man and get out of high school. We've seen high school Spider-Man 3 times so far, and I was worried about a lot of fatigue with that. But the way they do it is actually fantastic. For one, he is the youngest Spider-Man we've gotten so far in the movies. But also, I think if he were out of high school and a bit of a man, he would kind of blend into, Ant-Man and even kind of Captain America and Iron Man. He wouldn't be as different. But this high school setting lets Peter Parker be a different character outside of other MCU alter egos. And I really like that. They really play it up well. Everyone that's in the high school feels like they're in high school. And it's just a really good setting. As well as it's played more as the actual backdrop, where the previous incarnations, it was just like, oh, he is a high school student. Although both of them, not for very long. But I think it's feels like it's more of his identity, which, when you're in high school is your identity in a lot of ways. So that felt really good, and I gotta say, turning me around on something I thought was gonna suck and making it a great part of the movie, that's just thumbs up right there. That is great. So like I mentioned before, a fantastic villain, and that is something they do well. Obviously, a big complaint of a lot of Marvel movies is their lackluster villains. Not this time. He is so good, so scary, and one of the scarier parts is that he's kind of right. So the other villains I previously mentioned, Wilson Fisk and Loki, are bad guys doing bad things for bad reasons. Loki wants to be the ruler of Asgard. If he can't be ruler of Asgard, he's going to be ruler of Earth. Wilson Fisk, although is helping the city, or thinks he's helping the city, is doing it through extortion and violence and racketeering. Obviously, bad guy. Michael Keaton is just like a working class dude trying to make his way in a lot of ways, and he's not wrong about Tony Stark being lifted on the back of the working class, and being that the working class is being dumped on, and a lot of stuff like that. He's not wrong, which adds a whole level to this villain. Like, I kind of get it, dude, but you can't be doing what you're doing, but I get it. So that's an extra just level on this villain. I cannot praise Michael Keaton for his performance in this enough. He is so good. Now, I try not to watch a lot of reviews before giving out my review to keep it a little fresh, but seeing titles and like little things on Twitter and there, a lot of people are complaining this movie relied a lot on Iron Man, but I gotta say they came up with a very good balance of Iron Man to Spider-Man. It's not the Iron Man show featuring Spider-Man. This is a Spider-Man movie that sometimes Iron Man pops up in, and they really use him well as a mentor figure, which is something they do in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. So it's, again, another parallel to that. But, they work well off each other, and I don't think it's overbearing with Iron Man. I think it's struck a good balance. Along with that, Captain America cameos are so good in this. I love them. I don't want to go into details to give too much away, but I love the Captain America cameos. They're so awesome. I love them. Another thing they did really well is we have seen sad Spider-Man so much, and this movie is a lot more lighthearted, a lot funnier. It's Spider-Man loving being Spider-Man, and surprisingly, we haven't seen that a lot. All the other ones, he's always sad and depressed, and he can't have the love interest, or this is happening, that's happening. And, you get moments of happy Spider-Man, but overall, we always have sad Spider-Man, and I'm really glad to see we're not having sad Spider-Man again. This is jokey, fun-loving, good time Spider-Man, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and it's a great way to break off from the other remakes so we don't get a lot of Spider-Man fatigue. It's a very different take on it. And the final thing they did really well was that this is a smaller story. It only takes place within, Queens. The world's not at stake. The city's not even at stake. The universe isn't at stake. It's just a bad guy doing a shitty thing, and Spider-Man's going to stop him. It's street level, and it's great. It's a lot like we saw in, Daredevil Season 1, or even Jessica Jones Season 1. And it's explained in a way that why we don't have the Avengers, why the Avengers aren't coming in and helping him out. Which is a problem that the MCU had during Phase 2, where it's like, London's being destroyed, where's Captain? All these helicarriers are falling on DC. How about Iron Man come help? This one plays that up very well, and why they're not there. It's kind of below them, and it's just Spider-Man. And I like that idea that we can bring that back to this universe, as well as, there's things going on with the Avengers, but we don't quite know what because Peter doesn't know what. And I like that. So there's this bigger universe going on, but this is a smaller story within that, and I like that a lot. It's just a good way to break off from other Marvel movies. So it's not just always, the world's at stake again. It's just, a smaller story. But no movie is perfect, so where does Spider-Man Homecoming fall short? Well, the first thing that really bothered me was the suit itself. You've probably seen from the trailers and also in Civil War that, of course, Tony Stark gave him his suit, and it's got all these gadgets and gizmos and what's going on, and it just felt overbearing. Like, his suit could do anything. And I know it makes sense that it came from Tony Stark and have all the bells and whistles, but it was just an ex machina suit. Whatever jam he got in, the suit's going to get him out of the jam. And I get that it was sort of built in as part of the story, but it felt a little overbearing to me. Like, it can do this, it can do that, it can do this. And it was almost, he would have to bumble with it, which kind of made sure the plot didn't finish too early kind of thing, without getting into spoilers. And so, yeah, it was a little just, at the writer's consent that we have this whole suit that can either hinder him or help him depending on what we need for this scene. And, outside of web shooters and sometimes a spider tracker, Spider-Man's very simple. And I know he's had gadgets before, and, the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon has him with a fair amount of gadgets, but let's just, he's very simple. Let's just make it simple, just web shooters. That's all he really needs. So that part felt, a little rough to me. Now, the other part is we need more Marissa Tomei. You have Oscar winner Marissa Tomei on your cast. Use her. I mean, what she does in it is done well, but I want more Marissa Tomei. I mean, and it's also, she's not too bad on the eyes. But she's great, and I'd love to see more Marissa Tomei. And that's, you just use her a little bit more. Come on. Just a couple more scenes. So my biggest overall complaint, and it's again my constant complaint with the MCU, is the break between the movies and Netflix and the TV shows. There's just this disconnect between all those, and this one's even worse because this takes place all in Queens. The Defenders are all in New York too. I mean, Spider-Man's in Queens, Luke Cage is in Harlem, Daredevil and Jessica Jones are in Hell's Kitchen, and I believe Iron Fist is in Manhattan. I could be wrong. I tried to look it up, couldn't find it. I'm pretty sure he's in Manhattan. They're all in the same city. You couldn't have done like a nod at something, Spider-Man going, oh, there's that Daredevil guy, or, have Charlie Cox come and do a cameo as Matt Murdock and be like, oh, that's Spider-Man. Because, Spider-Man and Daredevil cross paths a lot because they're in the same city. And I don't know why there's such this disconnect between Netflix and the movies. And this one's just the worst because you're in the same freaking city. Just do a cameo, an Easter egg, a nod, something that connects these universes. Because it's just like, you say that these are in the same universe, but they're really not because they don't ever cross paths. And for whatever reason, Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, was against it. He has recently said, I guess they'll have to cross over eventually. But just cross over. How much could Charlie Cox really cost for one line to go, oh, hey, there's a Spider-Man. That's, everyone's got a gimmick or whatever. I don't know, something better than that, but just a line. Something. Get Kristen Ritter on there and goes like, oh, hey, there's Spider-Man. Something. They're all within a very close range, and it's frustrating. I'm sorry, but it is frustrating that they just ignore the Defenders. But they want you to watch it. Make sure you watch it, but, it really doesn't matter to the movies. And yeah, just connect those. Netflix and movies, let's connect those. Put Coulson in Avengers Infinity War. Coulson should have been in Age of Ultron. But what if they don't watch the show? Then be like, hey, watch the show and you'll get why Coulson's back. Just stop this disconnect. So let's get into some spoiler time. So throw up the sign and skip to this time code if you want to skip spoilers, because we're doing spoilers from here on out. So there is a twist, and it is great. So it turns out that Liz's dad is the Vulture, and it's so good. It's a very unexpected twist, but it also doesn't seem it's not very ham-fisted or tacked on. It overall makes sense, and it's great. Like, that is how you do a twist. My jaw dropped. I did not expect it, and it was fantastic. I loved that twist in there. So good job right there. But man, that was so good. Now the ending was very cool to me because obviously if you're watching this, you've probably seen the movie. But Tony Stark offered Spider-Man a role on the Avengers. He's going to stay in the Avengers complex and be an Avenger, a full-time Avenger, and drop out of school pretty much. And Spider-Man made the choice to become, a smaller to not do that and be his smaller level neighborhood Spider-Man. And that is very Spider-Man. I like that a lot because Spider-Man in the comics, although does deal with cosmic issues and world-ending issues in his bones, and when you boil it all down, he is a street-level hero. He's going to stop a purse snatcher. He's helping his city. And that's where he is. He can help with bigger problems, but in the end, he belongs in Queens and helping New York. And just that scene alone was so good of him making that choice to not be a big Avenger and to actually, be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And that, to me as a fan, was just a high five from the studio and a great way to handle it. Of course, when he's in Avengers Infinity War, he's going to be dealing with big problems once again. But I just like that idea and that choice of him being street level. So, fantastic. And of course, the best Marvel stinger ever. After credit scene with Captain. So, he's doing all these, public service announcements all through the movie. Really cheesy, like, your body is changing things. And just the ending credit of him just being like, patience is a good thing to learn, but sometimes you just waste your time. Worth it. Best end credit scene ever. It was fantastic. I loved it. So let's wrap this up, shall we? Spider-Man Homecoming is fantastic and, dare I say, the best Spider-Man movie yet. It is so good. I enjoyed it so much, and it was just different enough to where we don't get Spider-Man fatigue from all these reboots. And we've had 5 Spider-Man movies so far. This is number 6. And that's not including all the 70s shit, where that had 3 movies too. So that means, if you count the 70s stuff, we're about 8 Spider-Man movies in. We've had a lot of Spider-Man. But this one is different enough to where we don't get that fatigue. We're not bored with it. It's a different look on the character, a different spin, and it's all very welcome, and it's all very comic accurate, and I had a great time. The villain was great. The love interest was great. Aunt May is sexy. I still can't get over that. But Spider-Man is great. So I'm definitely giving it a rating of see it in theaters. I had a lot of fun with this Spider-Man. I can't wait to see where they go with it, and I can't wait to see him in Infinity Wars and see where we go from there. So yeah, go see Spider-Man. I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard. Until next time, hold on to your hold slots.